Hello and welcome to Open Courseware Public Administration. Myself Anupam Upreti, and I'll be talking about the themes, the topics of public administration for the civil service examination through these videos. Now let's begin with public administration as a subject, what it is, what was its history, what was the reasons for its development as an academic discipline to come into picture, and such other things. Public administration as an activity has a long history. You can say that that the history of civilization is nothing but the history of public administration. But as a field of academic inquiry, public administration cannot claim that long a history. But again, it was in 1880s where Woodrow Wilson, the former president of United States of America, made a call for the scientific study of public administration. It is in this context that the various theories of public administration came into picture, right from scientific management school of thought, classical theory, Weberian analysis, and such others, which have created the bulk of the theory of public administration. Now coming to the syllabus of public administration for civil service examination, as you all know that the optional subject is divided into two papers, paper 1 and paper 2, both 250 marks each. Paper 1 is the theoretical aspects, and paper 2 is the Indian aspect of public administration. Now, in my experience, the most important chapters in public administration are the first three chapters of paper number 1. Chapter number 1, that is the introduction to public administration. Chapter number 2, that is administrative thinkers, and chapter number 3, that is administrative behavior. In our analysis, in our analysis, we'll be starting with the administrative thinkers, the second chapter, which would be where we would be discussing the contributions made by the various thinkers. For example, Frederick Winslow Taylor, Henry Fayol, Gulick and Urwick, Max Weber, Elton Mayo, Mary Parker Follett, Chester Bernard, Chris Argyris, Francis Likert, etc. Once we have completed chapter number 2, that is administrative thinkers, we will be moving on to chapter number 3, that is administrative thought, because there is a conceptual link between what is the content between the contents of chapter number 2, that is thinkers, and administrative behavior. Here we'll be talking first and foremost by the decision making aspects and the contributions made by Herbert Simon. Then we'll be talking about motivational theories on leadership, etc., etc. And then we'll be coming back to chapter number 1, that is introduction to public administration. Once these 3 chapters are completed, then the subsequent chapters would be taken into account. Now, without wasting any further time, let's straight away move to administrative thinkers. Now, the situation is that as per the syllabus today, if one picks up the syllabus of public administration, the name of the chapter is not administrative thinkers, it is administrative thought. Prior to the revision of the syllabus, the chapter was named as administrative thinkers. Now, what is the difference between what difference is between this between the two words thinker and thought, administrative thinkers and administrative thought? The word thinker is very much individualized, you can say. The individual would be in focus when we talk in terms of administrative thinker. But when we talk in terms of administrative thought, then the individualized analysis would be there definitely, but we have also to see that what was the effect of a particular individual's theorization on the masses. इसका मतलब ये है कि सिर्फ इंडिविजुअल को ही स्टडी नहीं करना है, वी हैव टू स्टडी, हमको ये भी देखना है कि इंडिविजुअल ने, एक थिंकर ने औरों को किस तरीके से प्रेरित किया, how the individual was able to motivate the others or was able to leave an imprint in the management thought itself, administrative thought itself. Now in this regard, first we have to go for a conceptual differentiation between and among the various thinkers that we would be encountering in the syllabus. Uh, the entire administrative thought can be divided into two schools. पूरा का पूरा एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव थॉट को हम दो स्कूल्स में डिवाइड कर सकते हैं. वी कैन डिवाइड इट इनटू टू स्कूल्स. First, the first school is universal design school, and the second is the situational design school. Now this differentiation of what is universal design school of thought and what is situational design school of thought, this has been done by the Professor Mohit Bhattacharya. Now, as per Professor Bhattacharya, the entire theory of public administration can be divided into two schools. At the universal design school of thought, and the second one, that is situational design school of thought. Thinkers that are placed under universal design school of thought, they are Taylor, Henry Fayol, Golek and Urwik, Max Weber. Whereas the thinkers that are placed in the situational design school of thought, they are Chester Barnard, Elton Mayo, Rensis Likert, Chris Argyris, Herbert Simon, and such others. The link or the bridge between these two school of thoughts, universal design school of thought and situational design school of thought, the role of the link or the bridge is played by Mary Parker Follett. Now we have to analyze all these thinkers individually, and in the subsequent video lectures this analysis would be coming your way. Now let's start with the first thinker, that is Frederick Winslow Taylor, and his contributions made in scientific management. Now at this very point itself, I would like to say that the word scientific management, the phrase scientific management, was not coined by Taylor. The phrase scientific management was coined by a United States judge, Louis Brandeis, who in one of the cases which he was presiding upon used this term scientific management. But it was Frederick Winslow Taylor who popularized and made this phrase a famous one. Now let's see what was the analysis of Taylor regarding American industry. To understand his analysis, one has to first see the situation. One has to first analyze the times in which Taylor was living. Taylor came from a very humble background. Through his hard work and dedication, he was able to reach for the stars. He started in American industry as an apprentice, as a laborer, and after a few years, he went on to become the chief engineer of that same organization. Later on in his career, he started working as a consulting engineer, and it is through his experience that we are able to have an analysis regarding scientific management. For Taylor, the basic mantra was that the best management is the true science. Taylor guided by this principle that if something can be managed in the best possible manner, then it is a true science. Or you can say the hallmark of a true science of administration is that whether a particular thing can be managed in the best possible manner or not. Now, when Taylor started to theorize, Taylor first observed the American industry. The situation in America in those days was that industrial revolution was gaining maturity. But at the same time, the three most important things for any industry to flourish, that is efficiency, economy, and effectiveness, they were missing. Taylor said that if efficiency, economy, and effectiveness are missing in the industry, then the very basic purpose of having an industry is getting defeated. So therefore, he started to look for the possible causes for the absence of efficiency, economy, and effectiveness. Through his observation, he was able to find situations who say that the American laborer, the working class, was restricting production. In other words, the very basic purpose of not having an efficient industry is that the working class or the labor class is not producing at its optimum level. He named this phenomena as soldering. Now, what is soldering? Soldering is the dictionary meaning of the word soldering is that when there is an attempt to restrict production. Taylor tried to investigate the possible causes for soldering, And after his analysis, he was able to say that there are two possible causes for soldering. One, the very basic nature of mankind, or you can say the lazy nature of human beings, which now if the production is being restricted on account of an individual being lazy, he named that phenomena as natural soldering. Natural soldering, to repeat, is the restriction of production by an individual worker. Why? Because the individual is lazy, is not able to push himself hard. To counter this natural soldering, Taylor said that the individual can be motivated, can be properly trained, can be properly incentivized, and the individual will turn around. But according to Taylor, the most dangerous form of soldering was the systematic soldering. Systematic soldering is a situation where the individual is not lazy, but the individual is deliberately making a plan to restrict work. The individual is not producing as a matter of a systematic plan. Obviously, this situation is more dangerous as per Taylor, and he further investigated that what are the possible causes for this situation. After his analysis, Taylor came to the conclusion that people in the industry, laborers, workers in the industry were restricting production because of the fear that tomorrow they will not be called for work. What is this? To explain this, suppose today the individual is working and the individual is paid on a daily basis. The individual is a daily wage laborer, and the individual is producing, say, 100 units of a particular good. Now the individual is not being paid for 100 units, the individual is paid on a daily basis. It means that whether the individual produces 100 units or the individual produces 50 units, the individual will get the same amount of money. In such a situation, the individual will never try to produce more. Reason is simple. The individual knows that if I exceed my designated quota today regarding production, if I produce more, then I will not be given work tomorrow, because the production is based on daily rates or daily wages. Is producing today more, then the individual knows that tomorrow I will not be called for work. Why? Because I have to be paid on a daily basis. Now this is restricting production. This is the simple example of restriction of production. Let's take another example. The laborers who are employed in the construction business, construction of houses, construction of buildings, so on and so forth, they do not like to complete the work on time. Why? Reason is simple, that they are employed today, but if they are able to complete the work ahead of schedule, then what will happen? They will not be finding work the very next day. Taylor tried to counter this situation. Taylor tried to investigate further and tried to counter this situation. To counter this situation, Taylor introduced the piece rate system of wage payment, in the sense that every worker will not be paid on the daily basis. Daily wages will not be provided, daily wages would be scrapped. Compensation of an individual's contribution towards the organizational goal would be made on the basis of the number of units that have been produced by an individual. To repeat, piece rate system talks about compensation in terms of the number of units that have been produced by an individual. For example, if an individual produces 10 units in a particular day, then the individual would be paid 100 rupees if 10 rupee per unit is the wage fixed, or is the rate fixed. Now when piece rate system was introduced, another problem came into picture. How to fix the designated quota for a particular day, how to fix the amount of time that is required to complete a particular job. Because then again you require standards for production, both in terms of time as well as quantity. To solve this problem, Taylor started time and motion studies. Now, what are time studies? Taylor used stopwatch and used to record the amount of time that has been taken by individual workers in completing a particular task or in assembling a particular unit of a particular good. Along with this, he went for motion studies where he used to observe and note down the sequence of events, the sequence of actions that have been performed by an individual in making a particular the production of a particular good. If these two studies, time studies and motion studies, Taylor was able to zero upon the best time that would be required or optimum time that would be required in the assembly of a particular good or particular assembly of a unit of a particular good, and the amount of and that the actions that would be required to perform a particular task. For example, this is a very crude example, you can say, the assembly of markers. Now, markers that are used to write on whiteboard, they are assembled in a particular plant, for example. Now, what would be the possible actions to make that assembly? One way would be to first finalize the outer casing and then try to fill the stuff that goes inside the outer casing. Now, that will take some time. The proper way to do the job would be that first you finalize what is to be placed inside the marker, and then you place the entire thing inside the casing of the marker. Now, via this motions, in the sense that sequencing of motions, first finalizing the internal mechanism and then putting that entire thing inside the casing, it is a particular sequence, it is a proper sequence. For that matter, reading a particular book or a particular novel, say written by Jeffrey Archer, if you want to enjoy the novel, then you have to first read from the very first page. Not reading the novel from some mid sections will not do the job. So that is the way of doing a particular thing. Now, via time studies and motion studies, Taylor was able to find what was the optimum amount of time that was required to do a particular task, as well as what was the correct sequence of actions that would be required to perform a particular task. Taylor didn't stop at this point. Taylor went further. Now, Taylor said that what if there is a worker who is producing more in less amount of time? Then should that individual be penalized, that individual should be punished for producing more, or should that individual be incentivized, should be rewarded for producing more? Taylor came to the conclusion that if the individual is producing more in less amount of time, then the individual should be incentivized, the individual should be provided with a bonus. For example, if for the assembly of a unit of a particular good, the amount of time designated as a standard is say 5 minutes, and the rate for that particular good, particular unit of that good is say 10 rupees. So that is the standard, that is the benchmark. Now, if there is a worker who is assembling that unit in say 3 minutes, now first and foremost, the individual is having 2 minutes left with him. The individual therefore can invest those 2 minutes in the assembly of the other unit. Now, does it mean that the individual should be penalized for this? Taylor said no. If the individual is performing, the individual should be incentivized, the individual should be rewarded. What will happen to the wage rate structure then? The individual would be paid more than the standard rate, say for example 12 rupees. But there can be another situation. What if there is a worker who is taking 10 minutes to assemble a particular unit of a particular good, where the standard is 5 minutes? In such a situation, Taylor said that the individual should be penalized. Here the punishment should be provided. Now, what should be that punishment? Should the individual not be paid? No. Taylor said that the individual would be paid, but would be paid less than the standard. Say for example 8 rupees, where the standard was 10 rupees. It is important to note that Taylor has focused on incentivization of performance. In our example, where where the individual was producing a particular unit in 5 minutes, second where the individual was producing in 3 minutes, and third where the individual was producing in 10 minutes. In all these three cases, performance is there. Taylor said that performance would be incentivized, something would be provided for the performance. Idea is more would be provided for a better performing individual. So here lies a very basic point from Taylor's theorization, that for Taylor, performance is more important rather than the person. To be more precise, for Taylor, it is more important to perform rather than being present. Presence is less important, performance is more important. That has to be taken home. Now Taylor went on with his studies, went on with his experimentation, and was interested in trying to locate or to find the other possible causes for delayed production. Now, the one reason he found out was that there was not a match between physical nature of work and physiological nature of mankind in the organizations. Now, what is this? What is the meaning of this technical statement? Physical nature of work and physiological nature of mankind. Very simple. Let's take an example. Suppose an individual is there in an organization whose responsibility is to shift the gunny bags of cement, bags filled with cement, from point A to point B. The responsibility of that individual is to shift the bags of cement from point A to point B. Now, on such a task, for such a task, only that individual would be successful who is having a good physical strength. A lean and thin individual will not be able to do the job. This is the very basic meaning of finding a match between physical nature of work and physiological nature of mankind. You can say Taylor went for these minor adjustments. Taylor tried to promote the idea finding right place for the right individual. Position plays a very important role in organization. If an individual is not having physical strength and the individual is having the responsibility of a task which requires physical strength, then either you change the job or you change the individual. That is the basic idea. This was the one adjustment that was made by the individual. Apart from this, Taylor observed that in American industry, the onus of responsibility for the completion of a particular task lies solely on the individual, the organizational worker, the individual worker. In other words, what he was trying to say, he was trying to criticize the organizational managers who are not taking their responsibility seriously. Taylor said that the health of an organization is a joint effort, where the labor class has to do their job and the organizational managers have to do their job. So he wanted division of labor in a way. Taylor being the biggest proponents of division of labor or specialization, where he said that if the labor class is doing the job in a particular fashion, in a particular way, and if that particular way is a wrong one, then it is the responsibility of the managers to make the amendments, to make the corrections. Apart from this, Taylor talked about training. Taylor said that American industry is growing and it is not a place where novice would be, or a person who is new to an organization would be, or person who is not knowing, who is not having technical knowledge about the job that individual is performing, that individual would be finding difficulty. Taylor said that there should be a rightful selection of the workmen. The individual who is selected to work in an organization, the individual should be having some technical knowledge. If the individual is not having technical knowledge, the organization should provide that. Now, what would be that technical knowledge basically? That the technical knowledge would be the results of the research done on time studies and motion studies. In other words, what Taylor was trying to say, Taylor was trying to impress upon this idea that the individual which has been recruited by the organization should first train that individual and make that individual aware of the standards of the company. Once the individual is aware of the standards of the company, then place that individual on a job. Now, to a large extent that this basic idea is still being followed in the contemporary industry. In the today's industry also, this very basic idea is followed. Take the example of Infosys. Now Infosys as an organization is in a very big way into the software making sector, IT sector. But then again, is it not the fact that Infosys people who get recruited in the Infosys first have to go through a phase of training in their training institute in Mysore, or for that matter training institutes in other parts of the country. Now what are they learning basically? Are they learning the nuances of engineering, computer science engineering? To a large extent no, because that is the same thing that they have done in their colleges. But then again, what they are learning, they are basically learning the standards that are followed by the organization called as Infosys. Now what is this? This is same basic idea of Taylor, which he said way back, that go for scientific selection of workmen. Scienticism again important. Why? Scientific selection in the sense, select right individual for the right job, and secondly provide the right amount of training for that individual to do the job. Combining all these ideas together comes the practical aspect of theorization of Taylor. Taylor says, make correct selections, provide correct training, provide correct incentive plan, and provide a correct place for that individual in the organization, and the organization would be able to grow. The net result of such an organization would be increased profits, per unit cost of production coming down, and the price of a particular unit of a particular product for the consumers also would be less. In other words, it is a win-win situation for all. Win-win situation for the owner of the organization, for the workers, for the people who are working in the organization, and third, for the consumers of the products that have been made by the organization. Taylor, to improve further the organizational productivity, talks about the importance of division of labor or specialization. Now what is specialization? Specialization is nothing but doing the same thing again and again, and therefore getting mastery over it. Now to do the same thing, the most important word in this statement is the word same. You have to do the thing which you have been doing previously, you have to do it successively also, again and again. Or you can say it is an idea where you are going for inactive mastery. Now according to Taylor, the success for the plan of specialization is that first the work should be divided, and a glimpse of division of work we see in Taylor's theorization, where he is being critical of the organizational managers, where they are not taking the responsibility seriously, and he says that workers are doing their job. Their job, the organizational manager should also do their job. Now this is the basic idea of specialization. Now what would be the benefits of specialization? Specialization basically would be providing a scenario where an individual would be doing a particular task again and again, and would be getting very much well versed in it. Now in a specialized environment, first and foremost, every individual knows what the individual is supposed to do, and secondly, the amount of time spent on a particular task would be less. By borrowing the jargon of economics, you can say that the fixed cost of the organization, running of an organization, would be coming down. At the same time, the speed of production would be increasing. So Taylor was able to impress upon the American industry the importance of specialization. In other words, what he was trying to say, that don't do the job in a haphazard manner. Don't do the job, perform the job in a chaotic manner. Divide the job, divide the entire task. And one individual should be made responsible for one component of the job. The best example is the assembly line technology employed by the Ford company, the car manufacturing company Ford. Now, assembly of a car is a tough project, is a tough task. But if the entire thing is divided into various components, then the entire project becomes a bit easy, and the completion of the project will be taking less amount of time. This is the basic idea of specialization. Apart from this, Taylor talked about uh, the responsibilities of managers. And Taylor talked about something called as functional foremanship. Taylor said that it is very important for an organization to have good quality supervisors. Supervisors, or the first line supervisors who are just above the working class, labor class, they should be monitoring the production process in a good manner, with an observant eye, so that any flaw in the production process can be cured, can be rectified. To to improve upon the quality of foremanship, Taylor proposed the idea called as functional foremanship. Now, what is this functional foremanship? The task of a foreman, the task of a supervisor, Taylor divided that entire task under two heads. One, that is planning, the other is execution. Meaning thereby, there would be some supervisors who would be planning supervisors, and some supervisors would be execution supervisors. Again, we can see over here the importance of specialization. Planning supervisors would be getting specialized in the process of planning, whereas execution supervisors would be getting specialized in the execution aspect of the job. Meaning thereby, one supervisor would not be asked to do the entire job of supervision, but the supervisor would be asked to focus on one component of supervision. Now, these all things, when they come together, as per Taylor, would be improving the functioning of American industry in a very big way. And to a large extent, it was the reality also. But then again, if it is asked that what is scientific management at all, scientific management is mental revolution. Now, what is mental revolution? Mental revolution is a change in the mindset, is a change in the attitude of the workers and the organizational managers with respect to their responsibilities, jobs and duties. As per Taylor, when there would be a revived understanding, or you can say when there would be a fundamental changeover in the hearts and minds of the people who are working in the organization with respect to with their duties and responsibilities, as well as their colleagues, then what will happen? Environment would be generated in the organization, which would be self-propagating. People would be having faith and trust in the organization. Organization would be having faith and trust in the people working in the organization. And what will happen? It will lead to the growth of organization. Now, for this mental revolution to be realized, Taylor places certain conditions. First, each and everyone in the organization should not focus on the profit. Now, it may seem a bit strange, but then again, this is one of the conditions placed by Taylor, that people in the organization, working in the organization, should not focus on the profit or division of profit. Rather than this, everyone in the organization should try to make the profit so large that there is no need to fight over the division of profit. Now, this is very much natural. You can say this is very much very much basic basic idea. Taylor says, Taylor says that if people constantly think about the division of profit, they will not be focusing on their work. But if people do not focus on the profit at all and constantly work, then what will happen? People would be focusing on their work, and people would be able to produce results. Now, this is one condition. Now, how this this is one condition. Sorry, this is one condition. Second, the second condition is organizational managers should be focusing on their job. Organizational workers should be focusing on their job. It is the job of organizational manager to plan and decide, and it is the job of organizational worker to listen to the organizational manager. In other words, the organizational manager should be devising the scheme of things, and organizational workers, organizational labor should be following the word of or the commands of the organizational manager without question. In this scenario, what is happening? Everybody is keeping with their work. They are focusing only on their aspect of the job or their assigned job, rather than interfering with the work of others. They are working. They are more focused with their own job. Now, these are the two conditions which are required for mental revolution. As per Taylor, if mental revolution becomes a reality in an organization, then the sky is the limit. The organization would grow to such proportions that it would be worthless, or you can say it would not be very much important to fight over how to divide the profit. Now, this is Taylor in a nutshell, some few points, some important points. In the next video, I'll be talking about the criticisms of Taylor, and certain other things associated with Taylor would be coming in that video. Thank you very much.